Welcome. It's good to be with you. I don't think we have very many practices around tending to our pain. And I know historically, I think I could probably assume that most of us don't know the experience of having our suffering engaged well. And that oftentimes there is judgment that comes with our suffering, right? I should have known better. If I did something different, then maybe I wouldn't be in this pain. I'm naive for having thought that maybe this would have gone differently. So we often get caught by the judgments that come when we feel pain. And so we don't really tend to it. And so I want to give us some space in the next 25 minutes just to find ways to come around both in engaging the judgment, but then also engaging our pain, because I'm really gung-ho on the fact that our pain is meant to be engaged ceremoniously, right? Like it's supposed to be in communion, where a place is set for you to come and enter and to give expression, to be taken care of, to receive balm, salves. Like our pain is sacred because it reveals so much of our longing and so much of what we hope for in this life. So we need to treat it ceremoniously, and that's part of what I want us to do during our time. So I wanted to read, I've been sitting with this Joseph Campbell excerpt from his book, I think called Companion. And he says, your sacred space is where you can find yourself again and again. You really don't have a sacred space, a rescue land, until you find somewhere to be that's not a wasteland, some field of action where there is a spring of ambrosia, a joy that comes from inside, not something external that puts joy into you, a place that lets you experience your own will and your own intention and your own wish, so that in small, the kingdom is there. I think everybody, whether they know it or not, is in need of such a place. And so that's part of what I want to do. I want to create a rescue land for us today. I want you to create a rescue land, a very specific space where you are right now that is set apart so that you can engage your pain in a way that is reverent and honest. So with your candles, I want you to begin to light each one and place it around you. Is there? I think everybody, whether they know it or not, is in need of such a place. And so that's part of what I want to do. I want to create a rescue land for us today. I want you to create a rescue land, a very specific space where you are right now that is set apart so that you can engage your pain in a way that is reverent and honest. So with your candles, I want you to begin to light each one. We are creating a rescue land so that we can engage our pain ceremoniously. So we light candles as a symbol of this space that we're at right now, that we're in right now, is set apart. And it's set apart because we are claiming that our pain, that our suffering is sacred and is worthy of being tended to. So put the candles around you. Or in a half circle. And I just want you to contemplate, what does it mean to have a rescue land? What does it mean, or what does it even feel like to treat your pain ceremoniously? Take a moment and Let yourself become present to the space. And then I want you to begin to hold the suffering that you are in right now. So if you can get yourself located enough so that you can hold that suffering in your mind's eye and begin to notice, like, what does it feel like to be in it? What has it been to feel your pain over these last, I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a few months, maybe over the last year, maybe longer. But just allow yourself to become situated in the suffering as much as you can. And if it feels too uncomfortable, please feel free to back away. You know what you can handle. And then I want you to begin to think about, like, what are the judgments that have come because of this suffering that you have been in? What has been nagging at you or causing you to turn on yourself as you've been in this pain? And if you feel comfortable, part of making this a little bit more communal is being able to comment and share with those who are here. It's just a small way of being in solidarity and being part of the process that is a little more visible. So if you feel comfortable, I'd love for you to share, like, what are the judgments that have come since you've been in this particular pain? For me, I'll go first. For me, it's if I had done something different, then I wouldn't be feeling this. Or if I had been better at engaging, I wouldn't be feeling this suffering. It's all your fault. Everyone else copes better than me. I should have figured it out earlier. Yeah. I failed. I must be a difficult person for others to be around. Yeah. Should be able to fix this. This is my fault. Thank you all for those of you who've shared. Oh, I feel it in my gut reading those. It's like, I know that line, I know that line, I know that line. It's just so difficult to be just in our pain. We've been taught to dismiss. We've been taught to disengage. We've been taught to be bigger and better than we are. This shouldn't still be so hard. Yeah. If I'd been slower to speak. Oh man, women, I know that one right now. I want you to start taking your bowl and water, and please feel free if you want to continue to add comments, please do so. But start taking the washcloth and the warm water that you have. And I just want you to begin to get the washcloth wet, listen to the sounds of water. think the reality is, like, pain brings us into such incredible vulnerability and often powerlessness. And as a way of trying to make sense of things or trying to find agency, judgments are just really, really accessible. They come way too easily. They obviously are steeped in our history, so they're precise and conniving. But I think we need to come back to the fact that, like, there has been pain, and our pain is meant to be dealt with ceremoniously. We need those spaces, right? And so often we haven't had the spaces where we get to enter, where the setting is made so that we can become present to, give expression to the vulnerability, the helplessness, the lack of control. And I think it's in ritual we find more agency, where we get to find how to tend to where we have suffered. So take the washcloth, and I want you to consider, like, where on your body does this get symbolized, the judgment? And I want you to be able to apply the warm water to that place. So for me, it is my mouth. If I could have spoken differently or better, that I wouldn't be here, which really isn't the case. So take a moment, if it's your eyes, if it's your hands, if it's your heart, and just allow yourself to feel the warmth of the washcloth. And I think judgments are meant to be tended to in a way that is incredibly maternal, right? They're not meant to be eradicated forcefully, but they're actually meant to be dealt with kindly, but with a level of truth. And so I want you to consider right now, as you allow the warmth of the washcloth and the experience of the water, like, how do you want to engage that judgment? What is the antidote here? I know for me, the reality is, like, things were gonna blow up regardless. Like, I couldn't have done anything or said anything differently. And that there was something about my speaking that was necessary, and that it wasn't necessarily unkind. But I fulfilled a role for so long, right? Like, there was a role that I filled that I stepped out of, which made things very messy and shaky. And so the judgment came in, right, to kind of give myself a way out. That if I said something differently, if I said something better, then maybe I wouldn't be here. But the reality is, I would be here. I could have said things in the most flowery way, or the most, like, generous, even more. It's just nothing could have been done. So having to tend to that pain of what is, versus aligning with the judgment that keeps me from the pain and keeps me from the reality of what that situation was. So allow yourself to think about, to let your imagination offer you, like, what is it that you need to know here? And if you feel comfortable, please share. If it's something that's still uncertain for you, just let that be, and let the water and let the warmth bring comfort. I'll go back to that whole notion of longing, right? When we have a longing or when we have a hope for something, we start to act differently. We start to take risks. And that always means that there'll be some kind of pain because it disrupts. It opens up imaginations, and I think a lot of times people's imaginations don't want to be opened up. They don't want to engage. So I'm finding myself enjoying the sound of the water. It feels soothing. And I would encourage you to find a way to, if it's not using the washcloth, if it's just putting your hands in the water, anything that allows you to wash the judgment off of you. So that we can get closer to like what is your suffering, and how can we come close in order to treat it ceremoniously. And to treat it with reverence and a sacredness. I hear that it was necessary, but it's not too late. Yeah. My encouragement is, as you're in your pain over the next few days, weeks, that you'd be so suspicious of the judgment, that you would notice that the judgment is trying to keep you far from actually tending to what is, and it keeps you from being in contact again with your longing. Definitely, water is so soothing. Okay. I want to give yourself just permission to get comfortable right now. So if that means child's pose, if that means fetal position, but be careful of the candles. But please get into a comfortable position. And take your oil as well. So I'm imagining everyone's moving around a bit. Trying to be there with you guys, I promise. Okay, get comfortable. And I think it's not just comfortable, but it's also a position where you can allow yourself to be vulnerable. So I don't know how that will look for you, but maybe ask your body, like, what would be a position where I can be like a child, okay? And I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to begin to have an imagination for this setting, right? When I talk about pain, is meant to be engaged ceremoniously. Right? It's not meant to be engaged with a fix-it mentality. It's not meant to be engaged with dismissal or kind of just smiling your way through it. Just reading some of the comments. I'm a human in a human organization. The judgment is a protector. Definitely. Judgment is a protector from our longings, which set us up for pain, right? But I want you to get into your imagination as you're lying in a childlike posture. And like I said, our judgments have allowed us to then function in certain ways, right? We become either really dismissive with our pain, we become desperate with our pain, which sets us up to be alone over and over again. It sets us up to just kind of smile or grit our way through the suffering that we feel. Judgments can propel us into a particular way of functioning that really is pretty irreverent to our pain. And I want to just keep calling us back to we are meant to be reverent and honest with our pain. So when you find yourself kind of going into that MO of like, just get through it, or it's not that bad, just please be suspicious of it, because again, this rescue land is here. And part of what rituals invite us to do is to invite others and ourselves to create spaces where we can say, this matters. My pain is here and it's real, and I don't want to be alone in it, and it's meant to be in communion with one another. And so in your imagination, I just want you to picture like what would be, I mean, this is like a glimpse, right? Just having a few candles, it's meager, but I think it's something. But I want you to imagine like what would be your rescue land right now? What would it look like if you had your community, if you had a space where you got to enter and people in many ways like bowed to your suffering, not in saying that's all there is, but acknowledging that it is worthy of being held, it's worthy of being tended to. What would it look like? What would it feel like? What would it smell like? What would you taste? What would you need to do? So give yourself a moment to just ask, like, what do you need to do? Maybe it's more of a physical thing you need to do. Maybe you need to just weep. Maybe you need to break things. Maybe you need to taste something, or hear some sounds, or be held, or just sat with in silence. So give yourself a moment to consider, like, what is it that you need? What is it that you'd long for in that space? And really use your imagination to picture yourself there. And also be aware of what's coming up for you. Are there judgments that are creeping in as you're in that space? Like, oh, this is too much, or this is ridiculous, or it's never going to happen. Like, just be so thoughtful of the judgments that are going to want to creep in as your imagination, which is connected to your longing, is opened up. And when you feel the judgment or sense it, please use the washcloth and the water to wash it. To wash it in a tenderly, but also in a firm way. So maybe at this point you have a sense of what your body is needing. What your soul is needing. How do you need to be tended to? And I want you to take the oils, or whatever oil you have, and I want you to mark the places on your body that need tending, that have felt so much pain over the last month, 2 months, however long. We mark these spaces, these places on our body. Again, it is an act of saying that this is sacred, that this matters and is worthy of being tended to. And remember, your hands are like your hands affirm life, right? We know what it feels like to be grasped. We know what it's like to be pushed aside. We know what it's like to be like actually affectionately and tenderly held. But our hands offer us that. Our hands say to our hearts and our bodies that the pain that we have felt, that is both literal but also figuratively represented on our body. bodies is meant to be engaged with a kind of tenderness. So we mark. And we say yes to what our imaginations are inviting us into. So allow yourself, if you can, to say yes to that setting where you get to enter and be tended to well, where you get to give expression, you get to be honest, you get to be as physical as you need to be, where you get to take in goodness. We say yes to that. We say yes to our pain is sacred and worthy of being tended to. And we hold out actual physical spaces, like not just in our imagination, but we hold out hope that we can create and curate and invite others into where we've been. That our pain is meant to be in communion, right? Our pain is not meant to be dismissed or gritted through or a place where we feel so desperate. So stay in that position. We're about to end. And I just want to I'm going to sing just this refrain over you as you remain here for a few more moments. And if you want to join, please do. Obviously, I won't be able to hear you. Okay. You were made for love, and love is for you. Open your heart and let it in. You were made for love, and love is for you. Open your heart and let it in. You were made for love, and love is for you. Open your heart and let it in. You were made for love, and love is for you. Open your heart and let it in. You were made for love, and love is for you. Open your heart and let it in. You were made for love, and love is for you. Open your heart and let it in. You were made for love, and love is for you. Open your heart and let it in. You were made for love, and love is for you. Open your heart and let it in. Over and over and over again. You were made for love. You were made for love. You were made for love. Let nothing stand against that. Thank you all for being here. I hope that you can create spaces for yourself with others that allows your pain to be seen with reverence and with a kind of sacredness. Until next time, take care. Much love.